Warning: this video contains details of real crime cases. Watch with caution. If you're a fan of true crime investigations and want to follow more stories like this, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any case. In the quiet town of Millbrook, Nebraska, 48-year-old Thomas Dean Hawkins was a familiar face in the local real estate scene. Working for Heartland Properties, Thomas had built a reputation as a charismatic and successful realtor over his two-decade career. With his trademark warm smile and an uncanny ability to match clients with their dream homes, Thomas was the go-to agent for many in Millbrook and the surrounding areas. Thomas's journey to real estate success began at the University of Nebraska, where he earned a degree in business administration. His natural affinity for sales and his genuine interest in helping people find their perfect homes quickly propelled him to the top of his field. Colleagues often remarked on Thomas's dedication, noting how he would go above and beyond for his clients, sometimes working late into the evening to close a deal. At home, Thomas shared his life with his wife of 15 years, Margaret Hawkins. To outsiders, their marriage appeared picture-perfect, with the couple often seen at community events, arm in arm, laughing and socializing. Margaret, a local high school English teacher, was Thomas's second wife. She brought with her a daughter from a previous marriage, Emily Cooper, now 19 and in her sophomore year studying psychology at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. Thomas seemed to have seamlessly stepped into the role of stepfather, attending Emily's high school graduation and helping her move into her college dorm. He would often boast about her academic achievements to his colleagues and clients, proudly displaying her honor roll certificates in his office. However, beneath this facade of familial bliss, tensions simmered that would soon boil over with catastrophic consequences. Outside of work, Thomas found solace on the waters of Lake McConaughey. His prized possession was a sleek sailboat he had christened Windchaser. Weekends would often find Thomas at the lake, expertly navigating the waters and enjoying the company of fellow sailing enthusiasts at the local marina club. These outings seemed to rejuvenate him, providing a much-needed escape from the pressures of his high-stakes career. As spring approached in 2015, Thomas was on the verge of closing the biggest deal of his career, a multi-million-dollar development project that promised to transform a neglected area of Millbrook into a thriving residential and commercial hub. The success of this deal would not only secure Thomas's professional legacy, but also bring substantial financial rewards. Amid the whirlwind of this career-defining moment, Thomas was also secretly planning a surprise for Margaret's upcoming 45th birthday. He had booked a cozy cabin in the scenic Sandhills region and purchased tickets to a sold-out concert in Omaha. Thomas envisioned this getaway as a chance to reconnect with Margaret, away from the demands of their busy lives. From the outside, Thomas Dean Hawkins appeared to have it all: a flourishing career, a loving family, and exciting plans for the future. Yet, as the mild Nebraska spring unfolded, dark clouds were gathering on the horizon. The perfect life Thomas had carefully constructed was about to unravel in ways that would shock the close-knit community of Millbrook and leave a trail of devastation in its wake. The tranquil morning of May 7, 2015, shattered the peaceful routines of Millbrook, Nebraska. At approximately 6:45 a.m., Robert Grayson, a retired school principal and neighbor to the Hawkins family, received a distressed call from Margaret Hawkins. Margaret, away on a conference in Omaha, expressed deep concern about her husband Thomas's uncharacteristic silence. Worried and unable to reach Thomas herself, she implored Robert to check on him. Robert, known for his reliability and calm demeanor, agreed without hesitation. He made his way next door, noting the unusual silence that enveloped the typically bustling Hawkins residence. As he approached the front door, he noticed it was slightly ajar, an oddity that immediately set his senses on high alert. Calling out Thomas's name, Robert cautiously entered the house. The scene that greeted him was one of evident struggle. An overturned coffee table, shattered picture frames, and a lamp lying broken on the hardwood floor. The disarray painted a clear picture of a violent altercation, starkly contrasting with the home's usual immaculate appearance. With growing apprehension, Robert made his way upstairs, his heart pounding with each step. The master bedroom door stood open, and it was there that he encountered a sight that would haunt him for years to come. Thomas Dean Hawkins lay motionless on the plush carpet, surrounded by a dark, expanding pool of blood. Nearby, a blood-stained hammer, presumably the murder weapon, lay discarded, a grim testament to the brutality of the attack. The shock of the discovery momentarily paralyzed Robert. Then, his instincts kicking in, he rushed to check for signs of life. But it was clear that Thomas had been dead for hours. With trembling hands, Robert dialed 911, his voice cracking as he reported the gruesome find to the dispatcher. Within minutes, the quiet neighborhood was transformed into a hive of activity. Police cruisers, their sirens piercing the morning air, converged on the Hawkins residence. Yellow crime scene tapes soon cordoned off the property, keeping at bay the curious onlookers who had begun to gather, drawn by the commotion. Detective Lisa Sandoval, a seasoned investigator with the Millbrook Police Department, took charge of the scene. Her keen eyes immediately noted the signs of forced entry at the back door, a detail that suggested this was no random act of violence, but a premeditated attack. As the forensics team meticulously combed through the house, collecting evidence and taking photographs, Detective Sandoval began the grim task of piecing together Thomas Hawkins's final hours. The brutality of the crime scene spoke volumes. Multiple blunt force traumas to the head, defensive wounds on the arms, and signs of a prolonged struggle indicated that Thomas had fought fiercely for his life. The hammer, now sealed in an evidence bag, promised to be a crucial piece of the puzzle. Its presence suggested a crime of passion or opportunity rather than a professional hit, narrowing the field of potential suspects but also complicating the investigation. As news of the murder spread through Millbrook like wildfire, shock and disbelief rippled through the community. Thomas Hawkins, a man known for his friendly demeanor and professional success, had met a violent end in his own home. The stark contrast between his public persona and the brutality of his death left the town reeling, grappling with the realization that darkness could lurk behind even the most polished facades. The investigation into Thomas Hawkins's murder began in earnest as Detective Lisa Sandoval and her partner, Detective Marcus Reed, delved deep into the victim's life and relationships. The Millbrook Police Department, unaccustomed to such brutal crimes, pulled out all stops to solve this case that had shaken the community to its core. The detective's first port of call was Robert Grayson, the neighbor who had discovered the body. His account of that fateful morning was meticulously recorded, providing a crucial timeline. Robert's description of the disarray in the house and his shock at finding Thomas's body painted a vivid picture of the crime scene's brutality. As forensics combed through the Hawkins residence, a clearer picture of the attack emerged. Blood spatter analysis suggested that the initial confrontation had occurred downstairs, with Thomas likely being ambushed as he prepared for bed. The struggle had then moved upstairs, culminating in the bedroom where the killer had cornered and ultimately murdered Thomas. The murder weapon, a claw hammer, yielded partial fingerprints and traces of DNA. These were immediately sent to the state crime lab for analysis, with results eagerly anticipated by the investigative team. Detectives Sandoval and Reed then turned their attention to Margaret Hawkins, Thomas's wife. Her alibi of being at a conference in Omaha checked out, with multiple witnesses confirming her presence. However, her demeanor during questioning raised some red flags. While visibly distraught, there were moments when her grief seemed performative, a detail not lost on the seasoned detectives. The investigation took an intriguing turn when the team delved into Thomas's professional life. Interviews with his colleagues at Heartland Properties revealed that Thomas had recently closed a significant deal, one that had earned him both accolades and enemies. Jeremy Dalton, a rival realtor, had lost out on the deal and had been heard making veiled threats against Thomas at a local bar just days before the murder. As the detectives dug deeper, they uncovered financial discrepancies in Thomas's records. Hidden accounts and unexplained transfers hinted at a secret life that Thomas had kept carefully concealed from his family and colleagues. This discovery opened up new avenues of investigation, suggesting that the motive for the murder might extend beyond personal grudges or crimes of passion. The team also focused on Emily Cooper, Thomas's stepdaughter. Initial interviews with her college roommates and professors painted a picture of a dedicated student with a close relationship to her stepfather. However, as the investigation progressed, inconsistencies in Emily's alibi began to surface. She claimed to have been studying in her dorm room on the night of the murder, but security footage showed her car leaving the campus parking lot late that evening. As days turned into weeks, the investigation began to weigh heavily on the Millbrook community. The local media, initially supportive, started to question the police department's competence as the case remained unsolved. Detective Sandoval faced mounting pressure from both the public and her superiors to make an arrest. In a breakthrough moment, the forensics team matched the partial fingerprint from the hammer to someone unexpected, a match that would blow the case wide open and challenge everything the detectives thought they knew about Thomas Hawkins and his seemingly perfect life. The investigation had reached a critical juncture. As new evidence came to light and old assumptions were challenged, Detectives Sandoval and Reed realized that solving this case would require them to unravel a complex web of lies, betrayals, and hidden motives that ran far deeper than anyone in Millbrook could have imagined. The investigation took a dramatic turn on May 21, 2015, when a pivotal piece of evidence emerged from an unexpected source. Jack Thornton, a local retiree known for his daily walks around Lake McConaughey, stumbled upon a discarded plastic bag partially hidden in the bushes near the marina where Thomas Hawkins often docked his sailboat. Inside the bag, Thornton discovered a blood-stained shirt and a pair of latex gloves. Realizing the potential significance of his find, he immediately contacted the Millbrook Police Department. Detective Sandoval, recognizing the importance of this discovery, rushed to the scene with her forensics team. The shirt, a men's button-down in size medium, was covered in blood spatter consistent with the patterns found at the crime scene. More crucially, DNA analysis confirmed that the blood belonged to Thomas Hawkins. The latex gloves, seemingly discarded in haste, bore traces of the victim's blood on the exterior and, more importantly, held DNA evidence from the wearer on the interior. This discovery reinvigorated the investigation, providing the first tangible link between the crime scene and a potential suspect. The location of the evidence also suggested that the killer had some connection to or knowledge of Thomas's frequenting of the lake area. Detective Sandoval's team meticulously combed through hours of security camera footage from businesses surrounding Lake McConaughey. Their persistence paid off when they identified a figure matching Emily Cooper's description entering the area late on the night of the murder, carrying what appeared to be a plastic bag. This revelation led to a more intensive scrutiny of Emily's movements and alibi. When confronted with the new evidence, Emily's carefully constructed story began to crumble. In a tense and emotional interrogation, she finally admitted to having been at the lake that night, but vehemently denied any involvement in her stepfather's murder. However, the most shocking revelation came when Emily, under the pressure of mounting evidence, disclosed a secret that would change the course of the investigation. She confessed to having been involved in a clandestine romantic relationship with Thomas for the past year. This admission sent shockwaves through the investigative team and added a disturbing new dimension to the case. It not only provided Emily with a potential motive, but also cast Thomas's character in a completely different light. The image of the perfect family man and successful realtor was shattered, replaced by that of a man leading a double life fraught with moral complications. As news of this development leaked to the press, the Millbrook community reeled from the implications. The case, already sensational, now took on tabloid proportions. Public opinion, once solidly behind Thomas as a victim, became divided and confused. Detective Sandoval, while disturbed by these revelations, remained focused on the facts. The evidence at the lake provided a crucial link, but it wasn't enough for an arrest. She knew that Emily's confession about the affair, while significant, didn't necessarily make her the killer. The detective was acutely aware that in cases like these, the obvious answer wasn't always the correct one. As the investigation entered this new phase, the team faced the challenging task of separating fact from fiction, navigating through a maze of lies and half-truths. The case that had once seemed a straightforward home invasion gone wrong had transformed into a complex web of relationships, secrets, and potential motives. With public pressure mounting and the killer still at large, Detective Sandoval knew that every decision from this point forward would be crucial. The truth behind Thomas Hawkins's murder was proving to be far more twisted than anyone could have imagined, and the path to justice was far from clear. The investigation into Thomas Hawkins's murder took a decisive turn on June 2, 2015, when a crucial piece of evidence emerged that would finally break the case wide open. A routine review of traffic camera footage from the night of the murder revealed a startling discovery. Margaret Hawkins's car was captured driving near the family home at 11:42 p.m., directly contradicting her alibi of being in Omaha for a conference. Detective Sandoval, upon viewing the footage, immediately recognized the implications. The timestamp placed Margaret in Millbrook mere hours before Thomas's estimated time of death. This revelation cast serious doubt on Margaret's previous statements and provided a new focal point for the investigation. Armed with this new information, Detectives Sandoval and Reed brought Margaret in for another round of questioning. Confronted with the video evidence, Margaret's carefully constructed facade began to crumble. After hours of intense interrogation, she finally broke down and confessed to her involvement in her husband's murder. Margaret's confession painted a picture of a marriage in turmoil, far from the perfect relationship they had presented to the world. She revealed that she had discovered Thomas's affair with her daughter, Emily, several weeks before the murder. The betrayal had sent her into a spiral of anger and despair, culminating in her decision to confront Thomas on the night of May 6th. According to Margaret, she had returned home early from her conference, intending to catch Thomas off guard. The confrontation quickly escalated from a verbal altercation to a physical struggle. In a moment of blind rage, Margaret had grabbed the hammer from Thomas's toolbox and struck him repeatedly. The confession also shed light on Emily's involvement. Margaret admitted to calling her daughter in a panic after the murder, and together they had conspired to cover up the crime. Emily's trip to the lake to dispose of evidence was part of this ill-conceived plan. With Margaret's confession and the mounting physical evidence, the district attorney's office moved swiftly to file charges. On June 5, 2015, Margaret Hawkins was formally arrested and charged with second-degree murder. Emily Cooper faced charges of accessory, after the fact, and tampering with evidence. The arrest sent shockwaves through Millbrook. The community, which had been gripped by fear and suspicion for weeks, now grappled with the tragic reality of a family torn apart by secrets and betrayal. The case that had begun as an apparent home invasion had unraveled into a complex domestic tragedy. As news of the arrest spread, public reaction was mixed. Some expressed sympathy for Margaret, viewing her actions as those of a betrayed wife pushed to the brink. Others condemned both Margaret and Emily, seeing their actions as a brutal betrayal of Thomas. The legal proceedings that followed were closely watched by the community and covered extensively by local and national media. The trial, which began in September 2015, laid bare the dysfunction that had lurked beneath the surface of the Hawkins family's seemingly perfect life. Prosecutors presented a compelling case, bolstered by Margaret's confession and the physical evidence. The defense team, meanwhile, tried to portray Margaret as a victim of emotional abuse, arguing for a reduced charge of manslaughter. After a 3-week trial that captivated the nation, the jury returned with their verdict. Margaret Hawkins was found guilty of second-degree murder and sentenced to 25 years to life in prison. Emily Cooper, in a separate trial, pleaded guilty to lesser charges and received a 5-year sentence. The conclusion of the trials brought a sense of closure to Millbrook, but also left the community profoundly changed. The tragic saga of the Hawkins family served as a stark reminder that appearances can be deceiving, and that even in the quietest of towns, dark secrets can lead to devastating consequences. The Thomas Hawkins case, which had gripped the small town of Millbrook and captured national attention, came to its legal conclusion with the sentencing of Margaret Hawkins and Emily Cooper. However, the repercussions of this tragic event continued to reverberate through the community long after the courtroom doors closed. In the months following the trials, Millbrook found itself grappling with the aftermath of a crime that had shattered its sense of security and challenged its perceptions of those they thought they knew. The case became a cautionary tale, prompting many in the community to reflect on the nature of appearances and the secrets that can lurk behind closed doors. Local counselors reported a surge in couples seeking therapy, as the Hawkins tragedy sparked difficult conversations about trust and fidelity in marriages throughout the town. The real estate community, once proud to count Thomas among their ranks, now faced the challenge of rebuilding their reputation, tarnished by association with his hidden misdeeds. Emily Cooper's involvement in the case sparked intense debate about the long-term effects of family trauma and the complexities of victim-perpetrator relationships. Mental health professionals used the case as a platform to discuss the importance of addressing family dysfunction and the potential consequences of unchecked emotional abuse. The case also had a profound impact on the local justice system. Detective Lisa Sandoval, lauded for her thorough and persistent investigation, became a respected figure in the community. Her handling of the case led to improvements in the police department's investigative procedures, particularly in dealing with complex domestic situations. In an unexpected development, Robert Grayson, the neighbor who discovered Thomas's body, emerged as a voice for community healing. He organized support groups for those affected by the tragedy and became an advocate for increased awareness of domestic violence issues. The marina where Thomas once sailed his beloved Windchaser became a place of somber reflection. A small plaque was erected in memory of Thomas, serving as a reminder of the tragedy and a call for vigilance against domestic violence. As years passed, the Hawkins case became part of local lore, a story told to newcomers as a defining moment in Millbrook's history. It served as a grim reminder that even in the most idyllic settings, darkness can lurk just beneath the surface. Journalists and true crime writers found in the Hawkins case a compelling narrative of love, betrayal, and violence. Books and documentaries explored the case from various angles, each attempting to unravel the complex web of motivations that led to that fateful night. Perhaps the most lasting impact of the case was the way it changed how Millbrook viewed itself. The town, once proud of its low crime rate and tight-knit community, was forced to confront the reality that no place is immune to tragedy. This realization led to increased community engagement, with residents more actively looking out for one another and being more willing to intervene in situations that seemed amiss. As Millbrook moved forward, the memory of Thomas Hawkins and the shocking events surrounding his death remained a part of the town's fabric. The case served as a stark reminder of the fragility of human relationships and the devastating consequences that can arise when trust is broken and emotions spiral out of control. In the end, the Hawkins case left Millbrook forever changed, a community more aware, more vigilant, and perhaps a little wiser to the complexities of human nature. The tragedy that unfolded behind the doors of the Hawkins home would continue to echo through the years, a somber footnote in the town's history and a cautionary tale for generations to come.